Yo, what is up guys? Back here with another video. Today we are going to be discussing a couple of rental teams that I have put available for you guys. I'm going to be giving you guys a quick rundown on each individual rental team, kind of giving you guys an idea of how it's played and how it's used. And obviously these will all be free for you to use in Series 9. Obviously, in the beginning of the format, it's a bit tough to find teams that are reliable, so I figured it would be good to offer you guys 5 teams that I think would be pretty reliable. Obviously, these were all built by me. So if you guys would like to see the live process of how these were built, perfect reason to check out the Twitch, where we do all of this building live. So first, we're going to start out with our Screens Registeel team. So basically, the idea with this team is that we wanted to have a way to really have an endgame option that can put on a lot of pressure on the opponent. So Registeel perfectly fit this because Registeel is able to Iron Defense up, obviously, and also capitalize off of Max Quick Boost coming from Landorus, right? And this actually allows you to kind of set up the Registeel so it can just straight sweep the opponent at the end with Body Press. Also, too, you get a bunch of pressure just off of being able to sit there on the field and like Iron Defense. Like, it kind of forces a lot of targets into you so you don't get set up as quickly. And Leftovers allows you to have residual recovery along with Rillaboom, because it obviously gives you grassy terrain so that you can heal up significant amount of damage, right? So even if you're getting chunked a little bit in the beginning as you're starting out, you do get your health back from, from the Rillaboom's grassy terrain. Oh, I just realized I didn't put music on. Okay, ignore this like first few seconds because now I need to put the music. Okay, cool. All right, anyways. So the next thing, obviously, that comes into play on the team is obviously seeing like what everything does. So why is Blastoise on this team? Blastoise is on this team because Blastoise is able to offer the damage over time effect with its move. Also, too, it puts on a lot of pressure as a strong water type to be able to pin a lot of things that typically deal with Registeel. Specifically, Rotom Heat was one thing that this team needed to address. We had a Landorus, but obviously, like, I think that the Blastoise also does a great job of doing that. Also, too, very little things resist the residual effect that Blastoise gives, and it gives you a really easy way to clean Incineroar, which otherwise is really problematic for this team. So definitely a good incentive to use Blastoise as well on this team, and definitely a good reason. Grimmsnarl is pretty straightforward. The reason why Grimmsnarl is running Thunder Wave is so you can Thunder Wave Charizard, and you can go for a Cannonade with your Blastoise, or go with a Rockfall from the Landorus early on. Which will obviously just allow you to kill it before it even gets to do anything. Landorus, very focused around bulk. It's meant to pivot inside and out, kind of protect your team, and just really clean stuff. And then opposing water types were kind of annoying, which is why Rillaboom was really important as well. Obviously able to go for strong Grassy Glides and Wood Hammers to be able to break through that stuff. So that's pretty much the Blastoise team. I will put the rental up on screen now so you guys can get that if you guys would like. But yeah, Blastoise, very solid option. I thought this team was really cool. I really like the concept of it, and I thought it was like a really fun team to build around. So, definitely was a solid option. But yeah, you guys will see the rental codes here. Basically, main parts of the team, utilizing your Blastoise earlier. Oops, I meant to move the thing, so it wouldn't be like all dark. But basically, you have the option of going for really strong Cannonades with Blastoise early on in the game, or you can kind of go with a longer win-con-oriented game where you're kind of just swapping your Landers in and out, setting up your Registeel Iron Defenses, potentially even getting a Max Quake up, and then sweeping at the end with a Registeel. So a ton of good options here, super fun team, and definitely is worth trying out. So for our second team over here, you guys are going to see we have a double horse team. This was heavily requested by people because they really wanted to see both horses being utilized together. So obviously we obliged, right? And as I mentioned again, this is all done on Twitch. If you guys have certain teams you'd like to see, being around for those team building streams will definitely usually end up getting those like used. If you're around there, usually people say what they want to see or what kind of teams they'd like to learn about, or like for me to make. And that's a really good opportunity for you guys to kind of see those teams in action. But as we can see here, this double horse team is a little bit bulkier than they typically are. Obviously, we're utilizing a P2. This helps versus opposing Spectre along with your Incineroar and Moltres. So your opposing Spectre matchup shouldn't be an issue. Glastrier here is Lumberry. The main reasoning for Lumberry is obviously we have no way to stop Sleep Powder and Spore. So Glastrier with Lumberry gives us a good way to do that. Also, too, since we don't have Haze with Dusclops, or we don't have another, what's it called? Another way to boost up Glastrier's damage, such as Life Orb, because that's on the Spectre. We're running Sword Dance to mitigate, what's it called? All the defense drops, or attack drops that can potentially come from Incineroar's Cycling Intimidate. Moltres, obviously very important. Obviously, we're able to set up Nasty Plot. There's a lot of setup on this team, which kind of pressures your opponent into having to respect your Mons heavily, along with damage reduction and, like, disruption with Spore, right? So, like, you're able to Spore opponents, right, early on. The Amoonguss is max speed timid, so after an Airstream, it's going to be able to outspeed stuff, and after a Max Strike, it'll be able to outspeed stuff and Spore it, which makes it really annoying to deal with. And then you also have your Glastrier, I almost said Calyrex, but it's Glastrier and Porygon 2 and Incineroar, which gives you the Trick Room mode, which is very solid as well. And then you have basically a lot of ways you can kind of mix up how you approach certain matchups. So you have the option of like offensive Spectre, you have the option of offensive Moltres, or set up Moltres, right? You can even set up all three of the offensive threats, really. But, yeah, and then Pollen Puff on Amoonguss lets you heal up your partners as well, just so that they can get some recovery. Taunt from Incineroar is able to shut down stuff like Eerie Impulse, Porygon 2, or opposing Trick Rooms. And then, obviously, your own Porygon is really great at reducing damage from opposing special attackers with Eerie Impulse. So, the rental code for this team will be up on the screen right now. Obviously, as I discussed, pretty straightforward. Not much more to add. So, one thing of note is that, obviously, like, for the for the Glastrier and the Moltres, usually you're going to want to set those up to do, like, significant damage. Spectre is kind of able to deal that damage immediately. So, Spectre is your best, straight-up offensive mode out of all of the bunch. So, yeah, that would be the main, like, kind of rundown on that team. So, next team we have up is going to be Metagross Screens. So, obviously, Metagross is a very popular option within Series 7. Well, Series 9 now. But the main reasoning why is because of its clear body ability, prevents it from being intimidated by Incineroar. Also, its Steel typing is very good. It's honestly probably one of the best Steel types in the format at the moment. So, it makes a lot of sense to utilize. So, we're going to see we have a pretty straightforward Metagross Screens team here. We have a Landorus as well with the Rotom Heat. Basically, Landorus obviously serving to intimidate, Rotom Heat serving as the main check to stuff like Kartana and mons like that. Spectre is really useful with Screens because you're able to go for Will-O-Wisp, you're able to go for Bulldoze. Bulldoze obviously to proc your own Metagross's weakness policy. Will-O-Wisp so that you can burn opposing Metagrosses, you can burn opposing Kartana, which is very helpful, and you're kind of able to utilize the Spectre with Grimmsnarl very well because you can just straight up reduce damage. Thunder Wave on the Grimmsnarl is so that if you're caught in a position against Charizard with Metagross, you can go for a Thunder Wave Rockfall. Also, too, it lets you deal with Rotom Heat pretty well. Another thing, too, with the Metagross's speed is after an Airstream, it actually outspeeds Urshifu, and it outspeeds base 100. So, for example, Charizard, Zapdos, those mons. This comes into play not so much versus the Flying Mons, because obviously there's only one Airstream on the team. But it does come into play versus the grounded 100 base speed mon, so like Entei, because you can Bulldoze, lower Entei speed, outspeed it with Metagross, Quake it, right? And that's like very solid as well. So if you look over here, obviously P2 as well, straight up Eerie Impulse set, very helpful as well just to reduce damage. This team has a lot more to kind of reduce damage from the opponent with Grimmsnarl with Screens, P2 with Eerie Impulse, and Landorus with Intimidate. Also, too, you have Spectre, obviously, with Will-O-Wisp and Snarl, which is huge as well to reduce damage. Then you have Metagross, Landorus, and Rotom Heat as, like, your main damage dealers. The benefit of Spectre as well is, even though, obviously, it has, like, more of a supportive set, you can max it and go for max Phantasms if the situation's appropriate, and all of the investment it has in offense allows it to deal a serious chunk of damage. So now going over to the rental code, will be the rental code for the Metagross Spectre team, so make sure to obviously utilize that code. I think it's probably one of the coolest teams out of the ones that we built. There's a really cool one coming up as well that I'm really excited to show you, but yeah, that's going to be the main draw of that team and the main way to utilize that team. So for our next team, and like I said, I think this is one of the cooler teams, is going to be Terrapult Dragapult with Sun. So obviously Sun is very popular. Sun is very strong because of its options it has with Torkoal and Venusaur. With Torkoal and Venusaur, basically, you're able to pressure a lot of status. With Sleep Powder, Burning Jealousy, obviously you have Yawn as well. And Venusaur is just a huge offensive threat with its Vine Lash, which is very nice as well. Then you also have the option of utilizing Togekiss to kind of just redirect from all of your attackers. But I think the real star of the combination here is the Terrapult and the Dragapult. And here's why. So this Dragapult is EV'd so that it can live opposing Life Orb Dragapult's Phantasms, which is obviously very helpful because then you're never going to die to it and you're going to return the KO with your own Phantasm because Weakness Policy will be procced. What's really cool about this team is that Terrapult and Dragapult really support each other. So obviously you have the option of beat up with your Dragapult onto Terrapult, but if you're in a position where Terrapult's going to get faked out and you don't want to max your Terrapult, right? You can go for a Helping Hand, and then you can go on the offense with the Dynamax Dragapult instead. Or you can Dynamax your Dragapult, go for Close Combat, and because your Terrapult's Focus Sash, it's not going to be susceptible to just getting one shot because it's not in Dynamax. And then if you're in a situation where maxing the Terrapult's better, you can straight up just attack with the Terrapult, right? And go for an attack, and Dragapult can just straight beat you up. This gives the team a lot of flexibility in terms of how it can approach a lot of matchups and forces your opponent to respect multiple turn 1 plays that you can make, which is very solid, right? Obviously, there's not too much to explain on the Incineroar and Togekiss. Togekiss is meant to provide redirection support. This allows you to lead Dragapult and Venusaur in tandem with the Togekiss so that you can go for Vine Lashes, or you can go for Phantasms and just kind of stack damage. And then obviously you have Yawn as well to disrupt certain opposing mons. And then for Incineroar, Incineroar is able to just kind of intimidate with obviously its Intimidate ability, and also reduce damage with Parting Shot, and use Fake Out to really just shut down opposing setup or other Trick Room stuff. The reason why we're using Darkest Lariat instead of Taunt is because Trick Room isn't too bad if you're able to position your Torkoal correctly, get your Yawns down, and utilize your Incineroar properly. Darkest Lariat's really important to be able to hit Spectre a little bit harder because we're not max speed Pult, so you kind of want Incineroar to be able to go for a Darkest Lariat into those Spectres to actually deal damage. I will be putting the rental code up on screen now. But yeah, that is pretty much the summary of the team. Why it's useful, obviously main pairings being Venusaur, Dragapult, and Terrapult, but it does have some other stuff like Venusaur and Togekiss, and Dragapult and Togekiss as well, which is very solid. Also, you have the option of leading Incineroar always with these pairings, which is really cool. So that's like the main benefit of that. And also too, in general, like the amount of pressure Venusaur with Torkoal just like puts on to a lot of opponents is just crazy. So it's like very solid. Also, one thing I did forget to mention, Weather Ball Venusaur is very powerful here as well. It gives you a better way to break through opposing Steel types. That doesn't just rely on your Torkoal and Incineroar, because obviously stuff like Metagross can just kind of Steel Spike up and then it's kind of not threatened at all. So it's good to have Venusaur with Weather Ball to be able to break through stuff like that. But yeah, so for our final team here, we're going to be having Series 9 Sand. So this is something I used previously in Series 7. But we kind of like redid the build a little bit and we kind of worked around some stuff. So there's a lot of cool things about this team that I think is like worth talking about. So first thing that I think is really, really cool about this team is actually the Finny. So the Finny is Life Orb. The reason why it's Life Orb is because it allows you to check Landorus a lot harder with ice moves. You're able to go for Max Hailstorm, straight remove those Landoruses. Very helpful. But you may notice its ability is not Misty Surge, and it's actually Telepathy. The reason why you're using Telepathy Finny on this team is because you're going to be going for Earthquakes, right? And you don't want to hit your own Finny with Earthquake, and this gives you a lot of freedom to be able to Earthquake with the team. You can Earthquake next to Salamence without any punishment. You can Earthquake next to Run of Heat without any punishment. You can Earthquake next to Top of Finny without any punishment. And even you can Earthquake next to your Tyranitar if you want to proc the Weakness Policy. So it's a lot of circumstances where Earthquaking is like very like fine. And it's very solid. So, and obviously Moongus doesn't really care that much. Also, too, this team has a lot of good offensive pressure in terms of the mons that can utilize the sand, right? Rotom Heat, obviously, not affected by the sand, which is very beneficial for the team. Salamence can actually have some prowess as a special attacker. Primarily, you're not going to be maxing it, and you're going to be using it more in its supportive role. But another great synergy thing between the Finny and the Ments as well that's worth digging into is because the Finny is telepathy, that means it's not sending Misty Terrain, which means that Salamence's Dragon moves can really just hit for full damage. Against the grounded Dragon Mons, which is really solid, and it gives Salamence a little bit more place on this team. Salamence also serves as a great swap into the common water weakness on this team. Amoonguss and Finny also do that as well. Amoonguss is obviously able to go for spores pretty freely because there's no Misty Terrain blocking it, which is really nice. Pollen Puff as well heals up a lot of the setup mons on this team, primarily being obviously Swords Dance, Excadrill, and Nasty Plot Rotom. And obviously the Tyranitar here, pretty straightforward. Typically you're just going to be proccing it with your own Excadrill, or you're just going to be attacking with it and doing like strong damage. I think this team by far is like one of the coolest out of the bunch as well. Primarily just because of all the tools it has and like how it's using Telepathy Finny. I think Telepathy Finny is like one of the sickest things about this team and something I really, really like. So, you guys will have to let me know what you think. Like I said, again, like, these teams are all built on stream. This is definitely a good way to kind of get an idea of these teams and how they were built during the live stream. But, yeah, it's pretty cool. I really, really, really like how the, like, team came together for this. So, if we look over here at the rental code, this is the rental code for sand. Let me know, guys, if you enjoyed this video. Obviously I'm trying to break down these teams individually so you guys understand kind of what the thought process is with the teams, how it's kind of utilized. One thing I want to start doing maybe is having a breakdown of these teams, or having a breakdown of how to utilize certain teams. This is more likely to be on stream just because obviously it's a little bit easier as stream content. But I may try and upload this up to YouTube. If you guys would like the VODs from stream as well uploaded to YouTube, make sure to let me know. On stream, I do a lot of coaching, talking about mentality and how to improve as a player, and have those kind of long VODs and like transcripts of what I talk about, like a whole notepad, everything. We really break stuff down in depth. So make sure to check that stuff out as well. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you guys for all the support, and I will catch you guys on the next video, guys. All right, thank you so much, and peace.